So what do we do, folks? What do we do about everything that's going on? What do we do about this very disturbing oil spill? What do we do about the situation that is escalating between Israel and the whole thing? What do we do, folks? Well, I firmly believe that what we need to do is to start grassroots movements. What we need to do, and I've actually started a grassroots movement here in my local community. We're having public awareness meetings every Monday night, and what we are trying to do is to formulate a plan to make truth, knowledge, and empowerment fashionable. We need to have it trendy to be knowledgeable, to understand that not all conspiracies are theories. We need to use the system that's been put in place to brainwash people to deprogram the people. The system's already there. I mean, we know it works. Look what it's done to society. We have the governments constantly presenting the people with fiction disguised as truth. So let's start putting out the truth disguised as fiction, and then gradually infiltrate society and present the blatant truth to the world. But do it in such a way that it's fashionable, that it's empowering, that it's trendy. Don't do it from a state of fear. Do it from a state of empowerment. That, I believe, is the way we need to do it. And don't forget, girls, it's time to call your husbands home. It's time to call your sons home. It's time to call your fathers home. As I said last week, it really is time to do this. It's time for women to come into their goddess energy, to their goddess power. It's time for women to exercise the power that they have. Women are very, very powerful. So call them home, girls. Call your men home. Tell them it's time to stop playing games with silly weapons and killing people for banking cartels. It's time to come home. It's time to take care of themselves and their families. Forget all the wars. All the wars are contrived. Now, the situation that we are facing with all of the wars and all of the problems that we face, the situation we're facing with everything, I don't know, it's funny how things go, really, isn't it, folks? We have for so long been subject to corruption within our political and social structures that we have, as societies, simply grown accustomed to it. We've grown complacent to such corruption. Just looking at the state of the world, it becomes glaringly apparent that our governments are corrupt. Our governments are corrupt, our media is corrupt, our corporations and entire business world are corrupt. And it just goes on and on. Our education systems, our health systems, our food industries. I mean, one just has to look at the fact that all the Monsanto executives haven't yet faced criminal charges and been jailed. I mean, this clearly shows us that this system is very broken. I mean, companies like Monsanto certainly don't act in best interest of anyone. And we'll complain about things. We'll complain about all these things. We get angry. We scream at the TV or the newspaper. And we'll always say we want change. But along the way, we just seem to have missed the most obvious things. We seem to have forgotten to be the change we wish to see in the world. Being the change we wish to see doesn't mean that you should sit there all lovey-dovey and meditate with crystals. It means that you have to stand up for what's right, because that's what you want to see in the world, isn't it? You want to see what's right. You want to see every single human being looked after, cared for, loved. Everybody on the planet in a state of abundance. And the only reason people aren't in a state of abundance is because of this contrived system, this matrix that they have most people believing is reality. We have somehow failed to realize that all of the problems we face within our society, indeed within all the world as a whole, all these problems, as I have so often said, are simply symptoms. of the one problem that creates all of these symptoms. The problem of the corrupt criminal element that exists at the top levels of our societies and governments. And many have refused to see, or are simply unable to see, that this corruption persists solely due to the failure of common people to acknowledge it and to address it. Now, I know I've said all of this to you over and over again to the point of virtually ad nauseum, but I truly believe that it is imperative that people now begin to understand and see the reality of the fact that those we perceive to be in positions of authority over us are in fact no different from anybody else. They are simply people. That's all they are. And the only power that they have over this world is the power that we, the common people, give to them. I mean, sure, we elect certain individuals to carry out certain tasks and to keep our respective countries running smoothly. But those we have elected seem to work only to impose control over the citizens. They simply don't act in the best interests of the people anymore. And so it's time for the balance of power to be corrected. And it's really time for people to understand that the way to fix the situation we are facing really is simple. And it's time for them to realise that it's truly time for people to come into their power and to stand up for what's right. See, that's all you have to do, folks. That's all anybody has to do, is to stand up for what's right. I mean, I don't know, play these radio shows to someone. I mean, I know I went off a little bit on Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu in the first half of the show, but they get me mad, folks. These folks really do get me mad. And I can sit there and I can say the things I did about Benjamin Netanyahu, how I believe him to be some sort of subhuman, because that's just me. That's just the way I am. That's my way of insulting him in a friendly manner, because I don't agree with his actions. I don't agree with anyone who murders anybody, folks. And I don't agree with the actions of the Israeli government, but then I don't agree with the actions of pretty well every government on the planet, folks. I mean, I look at government for what it is. And when I think of government, I think of where the word government comes from, which is the Latin guber mente, which means control mind. That's all government is. Government is mind control. Human beings should be living in harmony with each other. They should be living in harmony with nature, living in harmony with the earth. And we would be if it wasn't for governments. All the problems that we face, all of the environmental problems, all of the mining issues, all of the harvesting of whales, the death of the orangutans, folks. See, the orangutans are almost extinct. I mean, these things are wonderful, wonderful creatures, and they're almost extinct. Why? Because of the actions of governments. And all governments, every single country that has a government, if that country has a central bank, then it's puppeteered by the same hand. That's it. Governments are just a system of control. That's all they are. The world is in a very precarious situation at the moment, folks. Everything that I've outlined for you on the show today, the approaching World War III, the approaching financial crash, the devastating oil spill we're seeing in the Gulf of Mexico, all of these things combine to create a very desperate situation for the earth. And this very much looks like the disaster that everyone has expected to manifest itself at the end times. Those of a biblical persuasion will be thinking of the end times, of Armageddon, of all the things prophesied by Revelation. You've got others thinking of things like the Hopi prophecy, the Mayan calendar, all of these things, the end of Kali Yuga. Well, what you need to see is that all of the main problems that we face are all man-made. They're all orchestrated. The only thing that isn't orchestrated is the slight global warming that we're experiencing, but this is a solar thing. This has nothing to do with man. It's simply man taking advantage of that situation and trying to use it for his own benefit. That's all the whole climate change thing is. Climate change is a scam. I mean, yeah, the climate's changing, but we're not changing it. It's just changing because climate's change. But that's a whole other issue. But what you've got to see, folks, is all of this end-time scenario that's being presented to us. I mean, this whole thing has been orchestrated. It really has. The oil spill, this is orchestrated. It seems to be so blatantly deliberate. But like I said, I don't think they actually realised the damage that they were doing. Or maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe they did.